Hi, this is Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com, right back here on Wager Talk TV with your college football top 25 preview video for this weekend and next year. It's 2 years in one here. We're going to talk about Saturday, New Year's Eve, the three top 25 games for December 31st, this Saturday. And then if you're joining us a little late, don't worry. I've got two of the January 2nd Monday games as well. So 5 top 25 bowl games previewed for free here for both Saturday, December the 31st, including both of those national semifinal championship games, and also 2 more games for this Monday, January 2nd. So whether you're joining us Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Monday, whether it's 2022 or it's already 2023, some great free content right here on Wager Talk TV. Quick reminder, there's plenty of bowl action to go. There are 4 games this Saturday. There are 4 games on Monday. A huge NFL card on Sunday. You know, there's no January 1st bowl games this year because it's a Sunday. The NFL has that day. So we get some bonus Monday, January 2nd games. And then, of course, the national championship a week from now. That's 9 bowl games remaining on Saturday and Monday and next week. You can get them for free right now when you buy my NFL package. Now, normally it's $100 for the college bowls. It's $200 for the rest of the NFL. You're getting it all for just $199. Buy the rest of the NFL, everything through the Super Bowl in February, and you're getting the rest of the college bowls, including the national championship, for free. No promo code needed. Go to my page right now, Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com. Get there quicker with shortcut code WT.buzz/SM. All right, we're going to do as we've done all season long, look at the top 25 head-to-head matchups, and we've got 5 of them for Saturday and this Monday in college bowl action. And we'll start with the first game on Saturday at noon Eastern on ESPN, number 5 Alabama against number 9 Kansas State. And this game is the All-State Sugar Bowl, taking place, of course, in the Superdome in New Orleans, as it always does. Both teams should travel extremely well. You know, motivation is the key handicapping factor with the bowls. It's gotten a little trickier over the past several years with the players defecting, opting out, and now the transfer portal makes it even worse. But Alabama, you know, Nick Saban said a couple of weeks ago his guys would be playing. We've had several guys enter the transfer portal, but the majority of Alabama guys are going to play, and that's important because you do worry about their mindset here after missing out on a national championship this season. We're going to talk about those 2 semifinal games in just a moment, and Alabama is one of the top 4 teams in the country, okay? And based on my power ratings, pretty much everyone's power ratings, they would be favored almost over anybody except for maybe Georgia and Ohio State. They would be favored over Michigan, definitely favored over TCU, and they're a very good football team. So that's why it really comes down to motivation in this one. As we head into the weekend, Alabama is currently about a touchdown favorite, right on that key number of 7. It opened as low as 5.5. When word came out a few weeks ago that a lot of guys were playing in this game, it's gone higher to 7, and it's kind of held steady. Total opened 55.5, and it's now up to 56.5 in most locations as we head into the weekend. 7 is obviously a very key number. About a 4 to 5% chance that Alabama wins this game by exactly 7 points. My power ratings also, my raw power ratings favor them by 7. So I think this line is pretty much spot on. We'll look at the matchups here. Kansas State, of course, coming off a huge win against TCU in the Big 12 title game a month ago, or actually at the beginning of December, 4 weeks ago to be exact. It was exactly 4 Saturdays ago. That very well might have been their biggest game. It didn't knock TCU out of the playoffs, though, which I thought it should have. We'll talk about that in a moment. But it's hard to say they'd be having a letdown being in the Sugar Bowl and facing Alabama now, but that was a huge win for them, and they do enter off of 4 straight wins and covers. Meanwhile, Bama, 3 straight wins, but they've only covered once in their last 4 games. And, of course, Bama's been a much weaker team on the road for several seasons now. It's something we've talked a lot about here this week, or this season here on this weekly video, is that Bama's home-road dichotomy has been pretty extreme. This is a neutral field, and I think the crowd will be supporting both teams pretty equally. It is a dome. You know, Bryce Young over the years has had a lot of ability to check at the line of scrimmage, and often that's why he's had problems in hostile environments and on the road. A colleague of mine, Tom Abraham, who I do an ESPN radio show with in the Tennessee Valley every week, big Alabama, follows Alabama very closely, pointed that out to me at the beginning of the season. It's something that makes a lot of sense. So Bama has been a lot weaker on the road. We'll see if that continues here in a neutral setting, and we'll see which team is more focused. Kansas State, even though they had the Big 12 win, should be very excited to be here. Normally, you would worry about Alabama, but Nick Saban, such a unique coach, have a feeling he'll probably get the troops rallied. Current line is 7, and that's exactly where my power ratings have the game as well. All right, let's look at the 2 national semifinal games. Both go on Saturday, New Year's Eve, December the 31st. 4 o'clock Eastern, we have number 3 TCU against number 2 Michigan. First of all, TCU does not deserve to be in the playoffs. Let's get that out of the way. I did the college football show here on Friday on Wager Talk TV with Tony Finn and Brian Leonard and Joe Ranieri. We discussed both of these games in depth. So if you'd like a good 10 to 15-minute preview on each game, I recommend going back and watching that replay here on Wager Talk TV, the college football show from Friday, December the 30th. But one thing I pointed out was that TCU is barely top 10 in my power ratings. Numerous teams would be favored over them. I thought for sure when they lost to Kansas State, they would not be in the playoffs anymore. I was wrong, obviously. And it comes down to a question, is it really supposed to be the 4 best teams or the 4 most deserving teams? I have no problem with either format, but I don't want them saying these are the 4 best teams in college football because they're not. And we all know the point spread is the great equalizer. That's the great truth. And the odds makers would have numerous teams ahead of a TCU. At least 9 to 10 other teams would be favored over TCU on a neutral field, including Alabama, who I just talked about. In fact, Bama would probably be about a 8-point favorite on a neutral field. And that's because Bama would also most likely be favored over Michigan by a couple points. You know, keep in mind, Ohio State was over a touchdown favorite at home against Michigan. However, Michigan is vastly underrated in that game, and that point spread was not accurate in hindsight. You all know watching these videos, I've been big on Michigan all season long. Back in September, when they were still 20-1, I mentioned them as a long shot national title pick. They started the season as high as 50-1 to win the national title. By the way, TCU was as high as 200-1, even 250-1 in some locations when the season began. So regardless of who wins this game, one of these two teams will make the finals, and you can have at least a 50-1 or higher long shot alive to win the national title next Monday night on January 9th. I think that's going to be Michigan. It's a team that I've liked all season long, remains underrated. And then on top of that, they're facing a phony TCU team that does not deserve to be in the top 4. And the fact that they're ranked 3rd is even more ridiculous in these playoff rankings. You know, the big game factor has been something since I started in the 90s, even when I, was following football in the 80s. We always saw the blowout games in the Super Bowl in the 80s and the 90s. Things have gotten more competitive in recent years, but we still see the blowout factor in the college football playoff. The last 8 years, 18 of the 24 games have been decided by 11-point margins or more. In fact, 18 of the 24 semifinal games, 18 and 6 combined, 13 of the 16 semis, 5 of the 8 national title games have had 11-point wins or more. So that means 18 of the 24 games in this college football playoff format the last 8 years have seen a double-digit win. That's 75% of the time a team wins by 11 points or more, and it's happened in 13 of the 16 semifinal games the last 8 years. The reason I bring that up is because most likely one, if not both of these games on Saturday evening will be decided by double-digit margins. Georgia, Ohio State we'll get to in a moment, but obviously Michigan, TCU, if there was one game which you could see a blowout, it would be this game because Michigan, I feel, is the much better team. We'll see where this point spread settles. It's been 7.5 for several weeks now. It briefly opened 9.5 a month ago or several weeks ago, early December. I think, that initial move on TCU, the sharp money came in on TCU early. They never tried to get a plus 10. Tells me that this line never will get that high again. Not sure it's going to touch that key number of -7 either, though. And I think anybody looking to back Michigan has been waiting patiently for weeks now to try to get that key number of 7. Once again, about a 4 to 5% chance Michigan wins by exactly 7 points in this game. We have seen a couple of sports books as we head into the weekend, both offshore and in Vegas, move to the -8. So I don't think 7 is going to show. If you like TCU, you might want to lock up the plus 7.5 now, but you're probably going to see a +8 or a +8.5 by kickoff because I do think initially there will be some Michigan money coming in near late kickoff from people that have been waiting to try to get a -7 and just won't be able to get it. Also, I think there might be a little bit of a buyback on the Wolverines since the early money came in on TCU at +9.5 a few weeks ago. I have my NFL Fade the Public video up Saturday afternoon as I do every week, and the public consensus data doesn't work quite as well in college football as it does in the NFL. But looking at all these bowl games this weekend, it does look like TCU qualifies as somewhat of a public dog. We know how much of a red flag that can be. So once again, a lot of things working against TCU. I think their time is up. I don't see them winning this game. And basically over 85% of the time in the playoffs, if you've picked the straight-up winner, you've gotten the point spread record. I believe it's 24-2. So only like 4 times out of the 20-4. There's been 24 games, 20-4 ATS, those 24 games. Only 4 times out of 24 the last 8 years has a team lost but covered. So basically, if you like TCU to cover the plus 7.5, you probably want to be putting a little bit on them on the money line as well, and look for the outright win. I don't personally see that happening. By the way, the money line is currently about plus 250 on TCU. So if you do like the dog, split it on the money line and the point spread. I personally like Michigan here, as I have had most of the season, and I do still think there's some value with the Wolverines in that single-digit range. Once again, 13 of the 16 semi-games have been decided by 11 points or more. I think this game is definitely likely a double-digit win for Michigan. All right, the other game, of course, is the other huge game this weekend at 8 o'clock Eastern, also on ESPN, is the, by the way, the Fiesta Bowl is the Michigan-TCU game. Fiesta Bowl in Arizona, neutral field for both teams. This other semifinal game is the Peach Bowl in Georgia, and that means it's in the Dome, the Mercedes-Benz Dome in Atlanta, and I do think that could be worth a point or two for the Georgia Bulldogs. You know, it's theoretically a neutral field. Ohio State will obviously travel very well, but Georgia's used to the Dome. They play there once or twice every season, and I think it's a legitimate 1 to 2 point advantage for Georgia. If you look at some raw numbers, some of my power ratings have Georgia only a 2-point neutral favorite over Ohio State. So even if you factor in a point or two, this line is a little bit inflated. And I think part of the reason is obviously due to the fact that Michigan manhandled Ohio State and the Buckeyes have not played since. And it's understandable. But keep in mind, once again, Ohio State was over a touchdown home favorite in that game, closed as high as -9 in some locations after being 7.5 most of the week. But they lost by 22 points. They did have a 2-0 turnover disadvantage in that game. They still moved the ball extremely well offensively, putting up almost 500 total yards of offense. Problem is they gave up over 500 yards to Michigan. Georgia is the better defense in this game. You know, on the surface, you wouldn't necessarily think that because Ohio State gives up 4.9, Georgia gives up 4.8. But when you factor in opponents played, Georgia faced a much tougher opposing schedule of offenses, especially in the SEC, than Ohio State did in the Big Ten. And Georgia's opponents were about half a yard per play better offensively on the season, and Georgia still allowed less yards per play and less points per game. So Georgia is the better defense. I think that's the biggest edge for either team in this game. But Ohio State, you can make a case, might be the better offense. 44.5 points a game, 7.3 yards per play, both of which are better than Georgia's numbers. We saw some early money coming on the over in this game. Opened around 60.5. It's up to 62.5 as we head into the weekend. Briefly saw a 7 out there a few weeks ago. Now it's 6 across the board. Obviously, people grabbed +7 with Ohio State, which was definitely an inflated number. You can even make a case that +6 is probably a little bit inflated still. And once again, some of my raw neutral field power ratings favor Georgia by only 2. The question is, do we trust Ohio State after we saw them get manhandled by Michigan down the stretch there? And Georgia really steps up in class well. This is a Georgia team that's taken care of business all season long, and they've done even better against good teams. You know, they had that game against Tennessee as a 9-point favorite. They won it by 14. They also took care of LSU in the most recent game on a neutral field, where semi-neutral, the Georgia Dome, obviously, in the SEC championship game. Laying 17, they win by 20. They put up 50 in that game. And something else I'll point out is that, you know, I talked about how most of these games are decided by double digit, these semifinal and national final games the last 8 years. Once again, 18 of the 24 games have been 11-point wins or more, including 13 of the 16 semi games, 5 of the 8 finals, but 4 of the last 5 have all been 11 points or more, even in the finals. One other thing you want to look at in the blowout factor, and we saw this once again with the Super Bowls back in the 80s and the 90s that were runaway games, they usually go over because the winning team normally piles the points on. And that's been the case. In fact, 6 of the 12 semifinal games have seen at least 60 points or more scored. And overall, 6 of the 8 championship games have seen 60 points more scored. So once again, that adds up to, you know, half of these games, 12 of the 24 playoff games the last 8 years have had at least 60 total points or more scored. So as good as Ohio State and especially Georgia's defense have been, if history is any indicator, it'll probably be a high-scoring game. Likewise for the Michigan-TCU game. So something to keep in mind. The majority of these playoff games, we see a team win by double digits, and we see half of them have at least 60 points or more. So if you like your dog, Ohio State or TCU, once again, you probably want to put some of it on the money line because the point spread has only mattered 4 times in the 24 playoff games the last 8 years. All right, that's Saturday for you. The 3 top 25 matchups, including those 2 huge national semifinal games. We're going to get to 2 more games for you on this Monday, January 2nd. So that's New Year's Eve. Happy New Year, everybody. We're heading into 2023 right here on this video. Before we do so, though, quick reminder, my NFL Fade the Public video will be up this weekend as well. There's no college football on Sunday, January 1st. New Year's Day is all NFL. Week 17 is here. Fading the Public did extremely well last week. I believe it was 7-2 on the video. Fading the Public. I had a huge card last week. We'll see how they do this week. Fading the Public was a big moneymaker last week, and we're going to do it again this week. It works extremely well late in the season, so check out that video here on Wager Talk TV. Don't forget to hit subscribe and hit the bell for instant alerts when these videos go live each and every week. Once again, if you hit that bell after you hit subscribe, you will be instantly alerted when my NFL Fade the Public video is posted for this weekend. By the way, if you want my official best bets in the national semifinals, the championship game next week, all of Saturday and Monday's bowl games, get it for free right now on my page at wagertalk.com when you sign up for the NFL. I've got a super strong lineup for the NFL this Sunday. By the way, last Saturday was the big NFL day, obviously on Christmas Eve. We went a perfect 4-0 sweep. We're looking to sweep the board again this time in 2023 on January 1st. By the way, we started strong last year in January in both college and pro football and finished the season strong. In fact, been ranked number 1 or 2 all season long in units won at Wager Talk, up over 46 units won on sides in college and pro football right now. Get the rest of the bowls for free when you buy my NFL package for $199. Get the rest of the NFL through the Super Bowl, everything for $199. You get the rest of the bowls for free. No promo code needed. Steve Merril, wagertalk.com. Get there quicker right now with shortcut code WT.buzz/SM. All right, let's look at those two games. Not New Year's Day, but on January 2nd, it's the New Year's Day bowl games this year on Monday, January 2nd. And we do have 4 games. 2 of them qualify as top 25 head-to-head matchups, and those are the last 2 games on the board. We're going to look at those now at 1 o'clock Eastern on ABC. Or actually, I'm sorry, that's not the ABC game. It's the ESPN game. We have number 16 Tulane against number 10 USC Southern Cal. That is the Cotton Bowl Classic, the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic in Arlington, Texas. Tulane should travel extremely well in this game, to say the least, right? New Orleans right next door, and they're excited to be in this game. You know, I talked about earlier how motivation is the key to handicapping these bowl games. You do have to worry about the motivation for USC, to say the least. This is a USC team that played their way out of the national championship picture by losing the Pac-12 title game to Utah. And it was a tough loss for several reasons. Not only did it cost them a chance of the national title, their quarterback is injured. Their Heisman Trophy winning quarterback is injured. And then on top of that, they blow a big lead early in that game, which made the loss even more difficult to stomach. I do worry about USC's focus heading into this game. But then again, that's been priced into the point spread. In fact, it was priced in from the get-go. They opened a 2.5-point favorite. As we head into the weekend, USC is currently only a 2-point favorite. And to put that in perspective, Tulane does not even rank in my top 30 in several of the power ratings that I run. They're not even a top 30 team. USC is maybe top 15 in most of my rankings. Pure power rating perspective, all things equal, USC would be over a 7-point favorite in this game normally. Probably would have been a little bit higher even. So the 2 to 2.5 is obviously priced in the fact that USC has several guys missing on offense, quarterback injury, and the fact the motivation is obviously huge and suspect in this one. And I think, you know, the line adjustment might not be enough. We've seen this over the years that these live dogs that are very interested in playing in these type of games, they can't adjust the point spread enough. So if you like Tulane here at the +2, you probably want to sprinkle some of it on the money line, obviously, as this is a situation at +105 or +110. They could definitely win outright. We'll keep an eye on Williams. They've been kind of hush-hush on how available or how healthy he is after winning the Heisman Trophy. There's the old Heisman jinx. Teams that win the Heisman don't cover normally in the bowl games. That hasn't worked as well in recent decades. That's something that worked extremely well in the late 90s, early 2000s. I don't put much credence into that anymore. But look, Tulane's going to be extremely excited to be in this game. USC most likely not. Yet USC is the more talented team. And if they come focused and somewhat healthy, they will win by more than 2. Once again, the point spread should be about that 7 to 8 point range. I'm just not sure that's going to be the case. They have several key offensive players sitting out and also the quarterback injuries. So Tulane does look like somewhat of a live dog here, and they'll be very excited to play in the Cotton Bowl at 1 o'clock Eastern on Monday. All right, there's one other top 25 game on Monday, January 2nd, and that is the late game, the Rose Bowl at 5 o'clock Eastern. It is the last game on Monday before we get to the national championship the following Monday. And this game, of course, in Pasadena, California, in the Rose Bowl, where it always is. Penn State against Utah. That's number 11 Penn State against number 8 Utah. And here's a situation where Utah coming off the big win, obviously, against USC, as I mentioned, in the Pac-12 title game, and now several players sitting out. Yet the line has gone from pick'em to Utah now a 2-point favorite. Penn State could be a little shorthanded as well. We'll dig into this a little closer as we get to game time. You know, what's really frustrating for me as a handicapper with these bowl games, and you guys should chime in the comments below, let me know your thoughts on these players sitting out, is that they don't even announce it sometimes till a day or two before the game. That's what happened with Pittsburgh on Friday. You know, this is a situation where Pitt announced 4 key guys are going to be out like a day before the game in the Sun Bowl against UCLA. So really frustrating as a handicapper for that. It's one of the reasons we sit back. We do this on a daily basis, put the plays up where we see value, but also make sure we have all the information. And that's another reason highly recommend getting that football package right now, because you become an all-access football client for the rest of the year. Every NFL play through the Super Bowl plus the rest of the bowl is included for free with that combo special right now on my page at wagertalk.com. This is a situation in which Utah currently about a 2-point favorite. If everybody was equally healthy in this game, I do think these are 2 top 10 teams. In fact, I rate them in my top 8 right now. I rate both of these teams ahead of TCU, and I make the line pretty much a pick 'em, and that's where it opens. So I do think the initial line was pretty accurate, and these are 2 teams that have had pretty good seasons. I don't think either one is necessarily disappointed to be here. You know, we talked about USC maybe being disappointed, or Alabama after playing their way out of the national title. Utah lost in week 1. They really were playing catch up all year, and they never really probably felt like they were in that mix. But we've seen how good they are beating USC twice this season, a team that was top 4 until the last game. And Penn State also a very good 10-2 team straight up, 8-3 against the number. So these are 2 solid programs, 2 solid teams this year. Utah runs the ball extremely well, 5.5 yards per rush, even if they're going to be a little bit shorthanded. The O-line should be intact for the most part. I think they'll have a good running game. They're not as effective throwing the ball as the numbers might indicate. 8 yards per pass came against opponents that allow 7.7, so that's misleading. Penn State, a very good defensive team, and we'll see how this game plays out. Once again, the line has moved a little bit towards Utah. I make the game a pick 'em, all things equal. Utah does have some key players sitting out. Total's gone from 48.5 up to 52.5. Once again, if focus is an issue, a lot of times we get less defensive intensity, and these games do go over more times than not. We'll see how this one plays out on Monday evening. Once again, those are your 5 top 25 head-to-head matchups for the bowl games on Saturday, December 31st, and also Monday, January 2nd, covering both 2022 and 2023. Happy New Year, everybody out there in advance. Thanks for watching all year long here on Wager Talk TV, and keep watching into the new year as well. Don't forget, my NFL Fade the Public video will be up this weekend here on the channel. Hit subscribe, hit the bell for instant alerts, and you'll never miss one of the videos when they go live here on Wager Talk TV. And download the Wager Talk TV app as well for when you're on the go, moving around town. You can watch these shows anytime, day or night. Don't forget, the rest of the college bowls are free when you buy my NFL package. I've got a super strong NFL lineup this weekend. We swept the board last Saturday, perfect 4-0 sweep. Looking to sweep it this Sunday now on January 1st when the big NFL card is taking place, and get all the bowls along the way, the national semifinals, the championship game next week for free. Everything through the Super Bowl with the NFL for just $199. No promo code needed. On my page right now, Steve Merril, wagertalk.com. Get there quicker with shortcut code WT.buzz/SM. Thanks as always for watching. Leave me some comments below. Let me know your thoughts. The solution, if there is one, on players sitting out of these bowl games, transfer portal, opting out. I'm not sure it's anything that's going to get any better. I think it's going to continue to get worse. At what point does it trickle into the regular season and guys start sitting out in late November? There's even some high school seniors that aren't playing their senior season in high school football after committing to colleges. So let me know your thoughts. Is there a solution? Any ideas on how we can crack down on it? Same problem we're having in the NBA with load management. I'd love to hear your thoughts, your feedback. I read every comment. I reply back as well. You know, I honestly believe we have the smartest and sharpest sports betting viewers right here on Wager Talk TV. Let me know where you agree or disagree with the math and which bowl games you like this weekend. Check the like button, thumbs up if you like the video, found it useful, subscribe, and most importantly, comment below. And then check back this weekend for NFL Fade the Public right here on Wager Talk TV. Happy New Year. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you again soon. Enjoy the games this weekend. Best of luck.